Hey everybody, welcome back to the Everything Auburn podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Odom.
And I'm Carter. Welcome to another episode.
Welcome back, everybody.
I'll be honest, Dalton, I just want to start just right into it here.
Okay.
I'm a crier.
Let's be real honest.
Dalton?
We both are.
And when we scheduled today, Mental Health Awareness Month this month, we thought, let's get something to go along with that.
Right.
I've been real scared about today.
Yeah, we have staff meetings every week, and yesterday we were telling everybody who we work with, hey, we're filming the podcast tomorrow, so excited. And then Carter and I were both like, hey, hope we don't cry.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. And
we've got a therapy dog here, so we'll
It's true, we do. It's true we do.
Thank goodness we do. Because today we have the Executive Director of Student Counseling and Psychological Services and Auburn Athletics Executive Director of Counseling and Sports Psychology, Dr. Doug Hankis. How you doing?
Sounds pretty impressive.
It's quite the job there.
Yeah, quite.
And who is this we also have here with us?
This is Dr. Rooster. He is one of our 4 therapy dogs, and he drew the lucky straw to come to the podcast today.
Love it.
Well, is this his first podcast?
This is his first podcast. He heard pawd-cast and was like, raised his paw and was ready to roll.
I love it. That's great. Well, welcome to it. We're glad you took some time out of your day, spend some time with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a little chat. Looking forward to this. Is great.
So you grew up in Auburn.
For the most part, yeah.
Okay. And then you attended Auburn, correct?
Did.
Okay.
Success in 7, not finishing 4.
Hey, you know what?
I like it.
And if that ain't the truth, because I did it in 5, and then I did 2 years of grad school, so that's okay. 7. Gosh, am I doing math right? 5
Dalton's
plus 2 is
Dalton's
7.
degree is not in math.
Look, I'm a 2-time
okay.
liberal arts grad, everybody. We're good at communicating, not at math. Okay,
That's right.
That's fine. But tell us a little bit about what all does Student Counseling and Psychological Services offer? How'd you get involved in this position? That sort of thing.
Loaded question.
No, it's
Yeah.
a long
There's a lot.
story. This is finishing up my 27th year. Went to Auburn as an undergraduate, met my wife here. Really never thought that we both never thought we'd ever come back. We were gone for almost 15 years, and just a random set of events, coincidences happened, and we ended up back here. That was 1998. The counseling center at that time was in the basement of Foy. And I don't know if you remember Foy back then, but we used to call it like a submarine. You could take your hand across the ceiling and the asbestos ceiling and just run across the...
Love that.
You know what I'm talking about. And, the running joke was when a student came in, if they weren't sure they were depressed, once they got into our offices, it was very depressing. So it typically confirmed it. All that to say
thus the department was born.
All that to say, there was not a lot of emphasis on mental health at Auburn at the time. So, where we were in 1998 with a 4-person staff for probably about 20,000 students, and how we've grown is just, it's a tribute to our administrators and a lot of folks who've just finally, realized we need to take care of Auburn students and their mental health.
I would imagine, it's a field that has, in the last, 10 to 15 years, has really blown up. But I mean, starting it when you guys did, I can only imagine was it on the front end, or is it kind of in par with, I assume it's not something that was as prevalent then that it is now.
I think back then we looked at all, I call our student body, I still call our student body shiny, happy people. As you walk around, it looks like everybody has got their stuff together. Easily the first 10 or 15 years here at Auburn, we spent more time destigmatizing or trying to destigmatize mental health and seeking out services and resources when you needed them. I'd say that has really changed. Now it's more us trying to figure out how to take care of as many students that request or want to be seen for different. And again, when we say mental health, I think people still go, well, what is that? It's anything that's getting in the way of you performing optimally. And so it can be, somebody who is so depressed that they can't get out of bed, or it could be just adjustment to college, or it could be a serious mental illness. We really see it all at the counseling center, but yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine what it's like day in the life. It's
I think it's the best job ever.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think a lot of us look at other people's jobs and go, I don't know how you do what you do, and I get that a lot. But you get to see people change. You get to see people get better, particularly if you stay one place too. As long as I have so many people who come back years and years and years later, and you know, will go, hey, you know, you said X, Y, or Z, and you know, it helped change my life, or you helped save my life. So that's, that's a great job.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And again, the therapy dogs. We got dogs.
We have Dogtors.
Oh yes. So that was we our research team, aka Kim, our producer. We see this Dogtors term all over your website. Is that a term you guys coined?
Yeah.
The Dogtors. This is
Yeah, that's how creative we are at the counseling center.
like it.
The Dogtors. Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
So you have two Dogtors. Is that
Right now we have 4 Dogtors.
okay?
Okay. Three of our dogs are retired detection dogs from Canine Performance Sciences with the vet school here on campus, and one of them is personally owned by one of our counselors who was trained. They're like training standards, and so once they've all been trained up to therapy. Alliance of Therapy, I forget what the accreditation agency is, but yeah, they're legit. They got their credentials.
So, you know, Carter was just talking about May being Mental Health Awareness Month, and just for anybody who's listening, students, parents, whoever, what are some of the things that you guys are doing for Mental Health Awareness Month in May? Y'all have anything going on? Is there any events or anything that y'all are doing, anything that y'all are highlighting?
Yeah, we got a number of events. It's for a college setting. May is not a really good month to have the awareness because we got everybody that's heading out of town,
right.
And then we've got a lot of incoming freshmen and parents who are not generally concerned about mental health when they come to Camp War Eagle. They're excited to come here. If there are any mental health issues, a lot of them are figuring they're going to leave them back in high school and they're going to be flipping the page. So, you know, the events, we don't do quite as many. We do so many throughout the year. I feel like, you know, we've got it covered. But yeah, we'll be out and about. But we're out and about a lot anyway.
Right.
Yep.
You did just mention it. So it does require the asking, right? Camp War Eagle, it's everyone's first interaction as a college student with Auburn, right? And you have a very special event that you do with
I think it's special since I created it.
It's special.
The parent run as part of Camp War Eagle. So any of you coming to Camp War Eagle, parents especially, you know, bring your running shoes.
Yes.
Because you go on a bit of an excursion with the parents.
We get hot and sweaty.
When did this start? How did you start this parent run?
So when I came back to Auburn, Camp War Eagle had just started. I think we're in like year 2 or 3 maybe. Mark Armstrong was the relatively new director, and we had, I believe, bus or van tours, and there might have been a walking tour. And I just said did a lot of running back then. I was pretty serious, and I just said to Mark, I said, hey, if I offered like a 3-mile running tour campus, would you let me do that? And he just started laughing. He's like, yeah, man, sure. You know, you can do that, but you're going to be running by yourself. And so that's how it started. It used to all be run out of the hotel and conference center, and we'd meet up there early. And, you know, for the first few years, it might be just a handful. A good crowd was 15, but we never got shut out. And just over the years, it's grown. And then we've had a lot of other faculty and staff members who have pitched in. We have some folks that have been running now for 20 years that are part of the Auburn University, faculty or staff. So it's grown a lot more. It's a ton of fun. The parents that do it love it. They think it's the best thing since sliced bread. It's the big running joke that Chris Landry with Camp War Eagle will get up in front of the parents at the opening ceremony and just mention and just remind everybody of the mandatory 3-mile run that will be occurring the next morning.
There's a march.
Right. And then, all the parents are like groaning, like going, but then there's the 50 to 100. We've had probably biggest crowd, maybe 100, 125 parents. But you just never know who's going to show up, but it is a lot of fun.
Hey, I can only imagine, mental health. stressful to parents, sending the kids off to college, get some endorphins going, early morning, a little morning run, see campus. I like it.
Sure.
It's
get a free T-shirt.
Hey.
What's not to like about that?
The list of things I'll do for a free T-shirt is shockingly long.
Yeah.
It is shockingly long.
Yeah.
Another thing, though, I think it was very interesting. It's my favorite question to ask people on the podcast. I ask it every interview I do. Is my favorite thing by far is how you got to Auburn. Now, I know a couple things you mentioned earlier. You kind of left, never thought you'd be back. Found yourself back. I'm in a similar situation, kind of a boomerang. Kurt Sasser in Auburn Advancement kind of has coined this boomerang term, I believe, with Auburn people.
Yeah.
But it is our understanding you have quite the interesting journey back to Auburn after having lived here, went to school here, left, and you found your way back through a bit of a fortuitous afternoon.
Is this the hot tub?
This is a hot tub story, is what I've heard. I heard it involves a hot tub.
It does. So I was working at the University of Tennessee, and I had actually run the Chicago Marathon the weekend prior to this. It was a small Southeastern College Counseling Center Directors Conference, and my director at the time was really, she was really trying to talk me into coming and going to this conference to share the driving responsibilities, and I was so beat up, and I really, really, really did not want to go to this conference. It was Hot Springs, Arkansas. And so I eventually agreed to go and got to Hot Springs, got checked in, and then basically the first thing I did was go buy a 6-pack of beer and head to the hot tub and just kind of like chill out because I was, again, so beat up. And as I'm sitting there sipping my beer, a gentleman gets in next to me, and we just strike up a conversation, and he was the director of the counseling center at Auburn at the time. And so we got to talking, and he said, we have a position open. Would you be interested? I said, I don't normally ask this right away, but how much does it pay? He told me. I laughed and said, no, thank you. That's like a huge pay cut. I'm not interested. Love Auburn, but not that much. And he said, well, why don't you come down and you can use it as an excuse to visit your family? And I was like, oh, okay. And so I came down and interviewed and felt so badly for the counseling center staff at the time that about mid-morning I got out of interview mode. I didn't really clean up too, right? So normally you go to an interview, you get the haircut, take the earrings out, get rid of the I can look presentable. And so I said, I'm just going to be me. I'm an Auburn grad, right? I'm an Auburn man.
You know the place.
Yeah. They're gonna get to see me. But I realized I was not going to come back, and so I spent most of that interviewing just trying to advocate for the staff here and just say, hey, Auburn, we're really behind. We got to do better. As an alum, I'm frankly embarrassed, and so I didn't go over real well during the interview, and my wife had When I got back, my wife had applied for a job over in Alumni Affairs as a communications director, and they offered her a job immediately. And then, they sat on me for about 6 months before I don't think they could find anybody else.
You sure about this guy?
And pretty much. The harshest thing, though, was a couple of years ago. I was cleaning out a lot of files, and I stumbled onto the files that had all my interview materials in there. And there was one, you'd get the written comments, and it said, "Not an Auburn man," and I was like dagger to the heart.
Oh gosh.
But different, So it all worked out, right?
But it worked. Yeah. But I mean, you are now. Yeah. I think you always are, but definitely say it now.
Yeah, for sure, sure. Good. Yeah.
Who would have guessed? Hot tub in Arkansas.
Back in '98, people really, really wanted to come back. This boomerang thing, and you couldn't. It was hard to get hired at the university, and for a married couple or somebody who was partnered up, for both people to get a job at the same time was almost unheard of. And people asked us all the time, "How did you guys do this?" And it's like, we really were not trying to come back. So I don't know how.
I don't have any advice for you.
No, it's kind of like it's supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen.
Right.
But yeah.
That's one thing. When I left the first time, I had to come to terms with the fact that I'm not going to be back.
Yeah.
It's just because there's only so many people who do this job, who work in the university, and they're really good, and they're great jobs. So they don't open up very often.
Right.
So I fully expected when I left that I was saying goodbye for forever. Never thought I'd end up back, but here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so great that I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always interesting hearing. So I haven't been graduated that long, and hearing from friends, I'm, 2025, 3 years removed from graduating, and there's still people who've been like, I have not been back since graduation. And it hurts, but they're like, I live in Chicago. Like, how am I going to, I can't just drive down, so it's
Get me a lemonade any day of the week.
It's a sobering thought,
Yeah.
It certainly is. But I did want to, as trying to keep an eye on my time here. I can only imagine how rewarding it is. I mean, you get to interact with students every day. I feel comfortable saying that every day.
Yeah,
you get this,
absolutely.
College.
Right.
You get to really get such a great touch of the university and know where and you get the best part about the university is the students, and you get to hang out with students, talk to students. Maybe not at their happiest time, but you get to kind of come help them get through it. Like it's got to be so rewarding to be around students all the time.
I still think working in higher education is the best job there is. At least for me as a psychologist, you get to do so many different things. You could go out in private practice or go work in a lot of other organizations or systems and make a lot more money. But the people, the students you get to interact with, the faculty, the staff, you can be involved in research. You get to go out and do podcasts. You get to start a therapy dog program. You get involved in graduate student training. You get such a mix of things. It's super rewarding for sure.
Right, yeah. And you also get to do a lot, not only with just general population students, but you do a lot with Auburn athletics.
Yeah, most of my background was in sports psychology. I'm a licensed psychologist. My undergraduate master's degree is in sports psychology within kinesiology, so it's all focused on performance enhancement. So I just, again, randomly, a lot of me, I try not to get up on the mountaintop and provide this wisdom sort of thing, but the one thing I will say is the power of chance events and just like, again, being in a hot tub, drinking a beer. But I wish I could tell you it was well planned out, making the move from kinesiology to psychology, and that was random, and that altered my career and just what I've done with my life. So yeah, when I came back to Auburn, I was lucky to get started. At the time, the swimming and diving program was doing really good. Jeff Schaefer was the diving coach, and he was the first coach who he was just like, hey, do whatever you want to do with my divers, sports psychology wise. And he's a great coach, and they started doing well. And David Marsh was the swimming coach, and he was like, why isn't Doug working with the entire swimming team? And so I got to work with that entire team and a lot of those individuals and kind of got to ride their coattails. I call basking in the reflected glory. I got to be a part of a lot of national championship teams. And then you're around enough. And other coaches are like, well, who's that guy? And, next thing I know, I was doing a lot of, again, I'm in the counseling center. All this is just extra because I love doing it. And really tried to convince the powers to be in athletics. As we could get out in front of this and there are going to be embedded clinical sports psychologists in athletic departments. It is going to be part of sports medicine, just like athletic training, strength and conditioning. We can either do this now or we can wait until everybody else does it. We didn't quite wait until everybody else did it.
That's good.
But yeah, eventually they decided they wanted to go that route and then asked, did I want to do that? And I was like, 10 years ago, it was my dream job. There's no way I'm going to leave the counseling center and what we're trying to build right now. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I was asked to step back in, and we had some unexpected turnover. And I think the thought was if I came in, I could attract some folks that would maybe stay. And so I've got an amazing staff in the counseling center, and I got an amazing staff over in counseling sports psychology. So been really, really lucky, again, with the people I've got to work with.
Well, none of that would have happened if you weren't working in higher ed, like you were just saying.
Never would have.
So.
And the hot tub.
And the hot tub.
You can never discount a hot tub.
I'm telling you.
It's certainly, sports psychology is especially something that I'm a big sports guy. You can't watch sports now without hearing an athlete get up on camera and talk about how they've done some sports psychology and worked with mental training almost as much as physical training. And I feel like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it wasn't as maybe stigmatized and open. It happened. You don't hear about it as much now. You can't hear, I mean, everyone's got their own personal person they work with, and it's so much more prevalent, especially in sports and athletics. It's so much more prevalent than it was a handful of years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you've got the performance aspect, and then you have athletes who deal with mental health issues and personal issues too. And for athletes, it's all intertwined. If something's going on in your personal life bad, it's a lot of times going to negatively impact your performance, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a baseball player and I'm in a slump, it's hard to leave that at the field and not maybe take it out on my partner. And anyway, it's what's really cool about working with athletes too is a lot of times with the work you do in the counseling center with students, you may or may not actually get to see all the changes. But when you're working in athletes with particular performance specific related stuff, you can see whether they're performing better or not, right? It's pretty clear, and they're coming back in and giving you immediate feedback about, hey, we talked about this, and I've been practicing it, took it out there, and man, it made a difference. So that's a ton of fun.
So I would be remiss to ask. We have the one and only Dr. Rooster here,
right?
So I was just hoping that you could, or Rooster, if you'd like to chime in, provide any self-care tips for anybody that's listening, and then really just to round it out, if there's somebody out there who is struggling and listening, what can they do? Who can they contact? Where can they go?
You can see he's pretty good at relaxing.
Mm-hmm. I do see that.
Snoring over there in the corner.
And he's also pointing out the importance of anyway. Self-care and taking care of your mental health is pretty boring, to be honest. I call them grannies. A lot of the things basic that if we would just do them on a consistent, probably daily basis, we could avoid a lot of these issues. But your grandma's going to ask you, are you eating right?
Mm-hmm.
And, are you getting enough sleep? You're taking care of that aspect of your life. How are you eating? How's your diet? Are you getting enough exercise? Are you spending time, socially, with your friends and making those connections, which can also be a problem for some students, right? Too much of that. But a lot of those things go a long way if you can do them consistently. The problem is, particularly with college students, is doing them consistently, because a lot of their life is not, consistent, because again, there's so many things to do you don't want to miss out on, right?
Right.
So you cut corners in a lot of ways, and sometimes you can get away with that for a long time, and then sometimes it can catch up to you. And particularly if you're more prone, if your family history, if you're more prone to anxiety or depressive related sort of things, as long as your stress level is good, you might not see any of that. But once the stress level gets amped up, it's like a pot of spaghetti, just kind of, everything's good, it's simmering, and then you turn up the stress, and then you got spaghetti sauce going everywhere. So again, self-care, super important. You can overdo that too, right? You haven't got any money and you're going to go get your nails done. That's not self-care. That's causing stress, really.
Yeah.
Reminding students too, sometimes they forget these things, and it can again, it's boring. Right? But if you're consistent with it, it goes a long way.
But it works.
It goes a long ways. Yeah. The counseling center, how do you get connected?
Yeah.
So you can, we're in 2 locations. We're at the second floor of the medical clinic, and we're also on the ground floor of Haley Center underneath the Auburn University bookstore. You can walk in, anytime and be seen. We've got somebody on call. We save most of those times for crisis or emergency, but we also let students define what the crisis or emergency is. Or you can just call the counseling center number. It's 334-844-5123 and get scheduled for an intake appointment. For non-emergency intake appointments, we can generally get students in, even at the busiest times of the semester, between a week and 2. And if it's a crisis or emergency, you're going to be scheduled same day. So, we try to keep the barriers as low as possible for our students. We don't charge for any of our services. Again, I think it's our administration and folks recognize how important this is. The dogs, we have dogs at both locations. A lot of people will just come into the waiting area to just kind of hang out with the dogs. And, we do a lot of outreach events with them. They do a lot of group and individual therapy, so they actually are in sessions with students. But probably their biggest impact on our student body is the outreach events that they do. We call them our mental health ambassadors. So we could do a tabling event on the concourse if it says student counseling and psychological services, and you see a bunch of licensed mental health professionals. It's almost like SG elections. You just go the other way, right? You don't want to be.
I'm gonna get psychoanalyzed.
Right? Yeah. I'm not gonna go walk up to the table because then again I've identified myself as somebody with. Yeah. But if you got if you have the dogs out there, people are going to absolutely come up and interact with dogs, and and sometimes that makes a difference for them accessing services as well. So, but yeah, they make I can't imagine not having dogs in the counseling center. So. We've got, one of these days I'm going to retire and we've got something set up. I know Dr. Woodard in Student Affairs is basically say you can retire, but the dog program's got to keep going. Yeah. So they're definitely going to be part of the counseling center ongoing. But yeah.
Well, incredible. Well, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for spending time. Thank you for setting up this program, doing all so much work. You, your team, your Dogtors. Do so much great work for so many students. I know it's a service I utilized while I was a student, and I'm so thankful that I was able to. And it's really incredible work. But
no, I love talking about it. But there's been so many people that have contributed to it. It has not been me. I just happen to have been around for all of it.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I'm glad that you and your team have been able to do so much great work because it is.
Appreciate it.
It is a very big need, and I'm sure you've helped so many students, and you will continue to help so many students.
That's the plan.
That is the plan. Well, thank you so much for spending your afternoon here with us and spending some time. My name is Carter.
I'm Dalton.
That's Dalton. And
I'm Dr. Doug.
Dr. Doug.
And Dr. Rooster.
And Dr. Rooster. Thank you. And thank you for listening. We'll be back again next month with another member of the Auburn family sitting right over here in that fancy chair and getting to hear their Auburn story. And getting to learn a little bit more about them and what they do. Excited to see you then. If you like what you hear, want to hear more, we got more episodes. We got like 8 or 9 of them we've done in the last few months, and some awesome ones. Wherever you listen to us now, just go backwards and there's more. And we'll see you again next time. Thanks, More Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Dam.